It's now time for Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. It began as a podcast, went live on the net, and transformed into a full-blown empire. It's the only daily boxing talk show on the planet, hosted by the only guy with the balls to do it. Many have stepped into the ring. Many have tried to take the belt. And one by one, they've fallen. Another victim of the undisputed heavyweight champion of Boxing Talk Radio. Talkin' Boxing with Billy C is on now.
My style is impetuous, my defense is impregnable, and I'm just ferocious. I want your heart.
From the Billy C Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero. It's time for the Billy C Show. Good morning, good day, good evening. Whenever you're listening, I hope you're doing all right today. Today's show is being brought to us in part by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria and Italian Restaurant located on St. Simon's Island in Georgia. Check out the website, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com, or give my man a call, 912-268-2328. 912-268-2328. Find out why I go all the way to St. Simon's to get an authentic Italian meal. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by our free app. Yeah, you want to watch our show or listen to the show on your cell phone or your handheld? Download the free app. It's easy. Visit BillyCBoxing.com and click on the banner that says download the free app. Yeah, I told you, it's easy. Just do it and check it out. Finally, today's show is being brought to us in part by my book, Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold. And you can get a copy of this book right now while you're watching or listening to the show. Just visit BarnesandNoble.com or Amazon.com. Looking to get a signed copy? Visit our website, BillyCBoxing.com, and click on the book. You can't miss it. And it's the holidays, so if you're looking to get several copies, because I strongly suggest you buy a bunch of copies and give them out as Christmas gifts, then drop me an email and I'll hook you up with a special deal. Billy at Talkin' Boxing, TalkinBoxing.com. So anyway, yesterday we had some issues with our sound system. We were in the middle of a snowstorm up here, and I don't know what happened, but the bottom line is we blew out our sound system, which got replaced, and we should be up and running 100% today. It's too bad because Sal and I did a great show together, and just he and I got to see it. And speaking of Sal, joining me right now is Sal Rocky Cenicola. That was fun yesterday. We actually went a couple of extra hours, didn't we?
Bill, I thought that was a great show, and thanks for leading me on, because I thought we were on all the time, but I found out, 3/4 way through that it was a muted show.
Right, and
but it was good practice.
It was great. I mean, we had a great time, and too bad everybody missed it. And anyway, some news.
Did you forget to push record too?
No, well, I didn't want to leave the soundless version of the show up there, but. See, the moral of the story, boys and girls, is that Sal and I were able to hear each other, no problem. It was the rest of you guys and gals that couldn't hear us. But anyway, some news, new news that we'll talk about, and then we'll get back into some of the stuff that we actually talked about yesterday. Tyson Fury, remember the ban that they had on him? For the British version of the anti-doping agency. He and his cousin, Huey, not baby Huey Fury, they were accused of testing positive for a banned steroid back in June of last year. And they denied it. And Sal, if you recall at the time, they said that the reason why the positive result came is because they eat wild boar that is not castrated, and that's where they got the testosterone or whatever they had in there. Make a long story short, they've both been lifted. The ban has been lifted basically for time served. They are ready to get back into the sport. Tyson Fury is already calling out Anthony Joshua. Hughie Fury hasn't said anything. Obviously, the BBBSC also has to give the blessing, but it's been reported that they are going to follow the UK's anti-doping agency's lead here. Sal, what's your thoughts on Tyson Fury being free, being cleared to be free to fight and start to get back in shape, etc.? Will it help or hurt the heavyweight division?
That's a good call. I mean, if he just cuts out all the drama and just does what he says he's going to do, and just get back in shape, and maybe stick on his mental frame, and as being, put the blinders on and focus as a combatant, and do what he's got to do. Maybe he'll be a contender in the mix to throw in there. So I mean, that's what you got to do, though. You got to map out your plan. You got to make your plan and work your plan. And you got to be free of all the antics, all the PEDs and all the wild boar in your diet and everything else that's going to be affecting your blood test. And know that you are in a business that you only have a few short years to make a career out of, and you're going to make it or break it. And you're only as good as your last fight and your last word. So do the right thing. Sit down with a strong consultant who's a boxer guy in the game, and try to map out what you could do to resurrect a career, to get back into contention, and then fight for a title. And let's see what you could do.
Well,
that's it.
Just remember, Tyson Fury, when he left the sport, when he retired, he was the champion. He is undefeated. And he was actually, prior to Anthony Joshua, he was the guy that beat Klitschko. I've always been a fan of Tyson Fury, at least prior to all the shenanigans. So it's going to be interesting to see. He's clearly out of shape right now. So it's going to be interesting to see if he's mentally into the sport. And I don't mean to use the word mentally, because there was some question of his mental stability several months back. But I'm talking about if he's mentally prepared to give it his all, or if he's just looking to get a big payday. I kind of think that he's got an ego, Sal, and that he is going to try to give it his all.
I hope so, because you know what? It would be good for boxing if he could do it. Like I said, if he, as you so well put it, he was leaving the game with the shenanigans, with his mental state at the time, and it was just a little bit overbearing. But the guy, as you pointed out, he's undefeated. He was a world heavyweight champion, and can he make that climb back into the saddle and then take the ride? Those are the words that we're going to have to see. And like I said, you do what you say what you do, and you make it happen. You don't just look for the antics and the secondary, tertiary excuses. You just have a mission. You put the blinders on and let your fists, let your actions, let your training, let everybody else do the talking for you. And get away from all the I can, you can, this one, and everything else. You know what? Let your training regimen and let your fists do the talking.
Some other news that I wanted to get to that we talked about yesterday. Unfortunately, just Sal and I talked about it. But Kell Brook has announced his comeback. He will be fighting in March 3rd to be exact, and he's going to be fighting at the junior middleweight division. I think this is a great move. I think Kell Brook, he was a welterweight world champion. He moved up to fight Triple G. So he bypassed the junior middleweight division. I personally never thought he was going to go back down to welterweight, but he did. Like we spoke about yesterday, Sal, he ended up getting his orbital bones broken, both of them.
Consecutive fights back to back, right?
Right. So that is a concern. But listen, whether you like Kell Brook or not, whether you think he's, possesses the skill set required to and I'm going to use the word, be a great fighter, that's neither here nor there. The one thing I think everyone that follows the sport of boxing can agree on about Kell Brook is he mans up, man. He fights who he's got to fight. This is a guy that doesn't seem to duck anybody, and I happen to like the guy. He's shown a lot of heart and determination. There were some critics in his last fight when he ended up having to quit, so to speak, because of the broken eye socket, the other one. And people saying, he shouldn't have quit. Well, you know what? It's what bothers me when people compare boxing to MMA. MMA, they could tap out, which is quitting, and nobody says boo. In boxing, you have a broken orbital bone. You break your orbital bone in a fight, or you get it smashed, and you say you can't continue anymore, and you're a quitter. You know, what's his name? Bit through his tongue. The heavyweight, Amir Mansour, bit through his tongue. And people are criticizing him for quitting. You know, I mean, quitting like Rigondeaux did against Lomachenko, I guess you can give him some criticism. But a guy that breaks his orbital bone, or another guy that puts his tooth, that, by the way, has a mouth guard protecting it, through his tongue, I think they get a pass, Sal.
Well, I think so. And you know, it's amazing what drives fighters. And like you were pointing out, you know, I remember one time I was fighting in France, guys, and an amateur, and for the first time in my life, I didn't know what happened. I'm going to tell you this. First round, I get hit with a hook because I was bobbing and weaving, and that was my style. And bam, I got smacked with a hook, and the glove, it blew out my eardrum. And for all I know, and I couldn't hear, air, A-I-R, was coming out of my ear. Felt like my equilibrium was all off. I went back after the first round, and I'm sitting on a stool. I'm saying, well, do I tell anybody or do I just go and fight? I just went out and fought the remainder of the next 2 rounds. But I didn't know what to expect. It was the first time. I thought maybe I was my brain was leaking. I thought maybe I had a hemorrhage. I couldn't believe it. It never happened before. It just boom, popped out, blew out. And later on, of course, I went to the doctors down over in France, and they diagnosed with the blown out eardrum. So, but man. You don't know, and when you have a broken orbital bone, yeah, you're gonna feel some pain, and every time you tap it, it's gonna be more than something that's gonna make you think twice. So you don't know what's gonna happen sometimes. I'll give him a pass on that because guess what? He is a warrior. He challenges himself. Kell Brook is a competitor, and I wish him the very best getting back. And I just hope his body is not going to be one to break up as easily.
I would think that an orbital bone would be extremely painful.
It's got to be painful, even more than an eardrum.
No, I think he's proven. And I think the key here was your choice of words about, his desire, the fact that he's a warrior, the fact that, he challenges himself, but, we just got, my man, Coach, just filled us in. You and I were just talking about this before we went live.
Yes.
Jeff Horn won his fight. He stopped his opponent in the 11th round. So this is taking place live as we're doing the show. So congratulations to Jeff Horn.
Yes.
The land, fighting in the land down under. So I'm looking forward to Brook making his return. Brook says, I can't wait to get back in there. It's going to be a special returning to the arena. The Spence defeat cut deep, and it took me some time to come to terms with it, but now I'm back with a new challenge at 154 pounds. I believe I'm going to be stronger and better than ever in this division, and my focus now is on becoming a two-time world champion. He's scheduled to fight Rabchenko on March 3rd, Sergey Rabchenko. And he says, as far as my next fight, Rabchenko is dangerous fighter for the return, but I want to jump straight back into the fight game at a world level. And I think our styles will gel for an electric fight. I'm already deep in my training camp, and I can't wait to feel the atmosphere again in my hometown on March 3rd. He will be fighting in the Sheffield Arena, which will be broadcast on Sky Sports. Sal, his nickname is the Special One, and, I agree with that. His fight, back-to-back fights, Triple G and then Errol Spence, showed the type of challenges like you just mentioned a few moments ago this guy undertakes, which I respect immensely. And Rabchenko is a really tough opponent. I mean, most of the time we see a guy coming back, especially from an injury, and they ease him back into the tub, so to speak.
Correct.
And he takes an easier fight and gets right back into it or slowly gets back into it. Kell Brook, on the other hand, is going right for a top contender. He's going in a new weight division. Yes, he fought Triple G at 160. Yes, his body looks like it's going to be able to handle 154 at no problem, but still, he's never fought in this division. I can't say enough positive things about this guy, and I'm really looking forward to it. And to be honest with you, Sal, I think 154 is the perfect weight for Kell Brook. What do you think?
I think you hit it right on. I mean, you know what? I think middleweight, even though his frame could carry it, and I'm sure we know how heavy he was that night, I think his agility, his athleticism, and his kinesthetic sense, as I always throw in there for fighters, I think he'll be primo. I think he'll be right on at 154. And like I said, I wish him all the luck. I love Kell Brook. He is a warrior, challenges himself, no excuses. This guy does what he says he's going to do, and he comes in and he performs every time he's in the ring.
Yeah, well, you know what? I have a feeling that he's going to do well. My only concern is there's some big-ass guys in the 154-pound division right now. I still don't know how Hurd or the one Charlo brother makes weight. These guys look monstrous by fight night, but that's what Kell Brook is going to be up against. But he's already, went up against Triple G and didn't fare too well. And he also went up against Errol Spence Jr., didn't fare too well there. But we'll see what happens with Kell Brook. I think one of the gutsiest fighters out there today. So I'm looking forward to his return. This past weekend, we saw a big fight between Vasyl Lomachenko and Guillermo Rigondeaux. We will be talking to Larry Hazzard in a little bit about that fight, get his thoughts on it. But one of the things I wanted to bring up today, Sal, is that they released the numbers, and it had huge ratings, even considering it was going head-to-head with HBO, even though Lomachenko-Rigondeaux was a much better and more anticipated and interesting fight than HBO had on. HBO had the Salido Roman fight on, which we all know was a exciting fight, and anybody that follows the sport knew that it was going to be a back-and-forth fight. But a 1.5 metered market rating was the second highest rated boxing telecast in all of 2017. And consider some of the huge fights that we saw so far in 2017. Saturday night on ESPN, Lomachenko and Rigondeaux got 1.5 metered rating. That's huge for television market, especially for boxing. What's your thoughts?
Well, I think it's great. I mean, I was haunted this week with the last show we did last week, and we said, both of us, that how do we feel that this fight would live up to the hype? And we both committed saying it would. Unfortunately, we were both wrong on that. But I'm glad that the enthusiasm and the anticipation of seeing a classic war between two opponents that are world class and are world beaters did attract many people, and I think that's great for boxing. I'm just sorry that it really did not live up to the hype because Rigondeaux quit.
Yeah, well, you know what? People were comparing that with Durant, and
exactly.
It was totally different than the Durant fight. The Durant fight, and yes, before anybody sends me emails or anything else or makes a comment in our chat room, and by the way, if you're watching or listening live, no matter where you're watching or listening live, don't forget, we respond directly to the chat room, the one chat room up on BillyCBoxing.com. I know there's several others. And by the way, 2018, we're going to be telling you our schedule for the remainder of 2017 next week. It is going to be a short one. We are going to be off a bit for the holidays, but man, do we got some stuff? We're going to be off from you, not Sal and I. We got a lot of stuff we're working on, and you guys are going to love some of the stuff that's coming out on this show in 2018. And I will give you a heads up. Our Facebook, we simulcast on Facebook, which I'm embarrassed to say is such a terrible feed, and the camera's terrible. All of that's changing, boys and girls. We got a whole new system specifically set up for our Facebook simulcast. So you guys are going to be loving that, especially the people that prefer to do that. But the difference between the No Mas fight and the Rigondeaux fight, in my opinion, Sal, was the fact that, and I said this the other day that nobody heard, but the difference was that Roberto Duran was frustrated because he was a mano type guy. He wanted to go in there and who's the bigger man? Who's the tougher guy? Let's duke it out. And the winner is standing and the loser falls. And Sugar Ray Leonard danced around and did more of a hit and run type of a performance. And it frustrated Duran to the point where he's like, I'm not wasting my time. And he quit. I mean, No Mas, he quit. There's no way to sugarcoat it. The difference with Rigondeaux is that Lomachenko and Rigondeaux, for that matter, are true sweet science guys, which means that they are standing in harm's way when they're letting their hands go, and at the same time, they're avoiding the onslaught from the opponent. That's the sweet science. The sweet science is when you're in range to inflict damage on your opponent, and they're in range to inflict damage on you, and they can't hit you because you're avoiding it, and you're hitting them. That's the sweet science, okay? I mean, a lot of people say, the sweet science, hit, not get hit. They leave that other part out. I think what frustrated Rigondeaux in this fight, Sal, was the fact that he was in range, and he still could not hit Lomachenko. And the whole thing about the hand and all of that and quitting on his stool, I could read, and I would rewatch that fight, and when the corner said, no, done, finished, done, they were just as upset with their fighter as the fans were. Did you notice that?
Yes, I did, and I can't believe you pointed that out and you saw that because let's face it. I mean, I think by the third round, Rigondeaux, and I can't speak for him, but it was just a matter of Lomachenko having an answer for everything that Rigondeaux was going to try and do, and it was going to be answered only by Lomachenko because no matter what happened, Lomachenko was in position. He was striking him. He was hitting him. And there were the sneaky uppercuts, the left hooks, the right hands, the jabs. And Rigondeaux couldn't get out of the gate. And it was frustrating. So by that sixth round or whatever, he said, wait a minute, you know what? My hand hurts or whatever. I'm not going to go out there. I'm just getting beaten no matter what I do. Like I said, if these fighters think about the big picture, then what's right in front of them in a minute, in the instance, who knows? Had he gotten proper or had he gotten different instructions from his corner, seeing some opportunities or seeing what he could do to change a game plan, I don't know. The thing is, we'll never know because it won't play out like that. We saw what happened, and that's what we could use to make our own opinions and see. But he did quit. His hand wasn't broken. They gave him a clearance. I think he might have had a hematoma or something, but that's a bruise. People fight with broken hands. People fight with bruises. People fight. That's why it's not an easy game of boxing. Not everyone can do it.
The ramifications and repercussions from Rigondeaux deciding to not continue could very well destroy his career.
Big time. Big time.
He never made the money and got the fights that he wanted to. He's 37 years old. He gets outclassed by Lomachenko. And Lomachenko, he distanced himself from everybody else in the sport right now. And as far as Rigondeaux, who many people believed was, a top guy in his own right, kind of hurt himself. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens from this point on with him. But anyway, hold that thought, Sal. We got to take a break. When we come back, and hopefully the brake system will work, but we will. When we come back, we got some more to talk about that. Sal's raising his hand, so he's got something to say about that. I got some David Lemieux and Billy Joe Saunders quotes. Then we're going to break and have Larry Hazzard come on. We'll talk to him. Then we're coming back to Sal because we're putting off the Blast from the Past till next week. My man Alex is under the weather. So, Sal, you're going to be back. We got a bunch of emails to read. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in 2.
Billy C will be right back.
Broken air conditioning, $4,400. Failing refrigerator, $2,500. Don't let outrageous repair and replacement bills like these bust your budget. Get the First American Home Warranty Plan. And when a covered appliance or system breaks, we'll repair it or replace it for you.
We had a high-end dishwasher go kaput. They put it in a brand new dishwasher.
We have plans that cover air conditioning, most appliances, plus heating, plumbing, electrical systems, and much more. Plans start as low as $25 a month. Why let a major appliance or system breakdown bust your budget or go through the hassle of finding trustworthy service people? Last year alone, we saved our customers over $120 million. Don't wait until something breaks and you're stuck with a huge bill.
You save a lot of money. It's absolutely worth it.
If you don't have First American Warranty, get it.
Call 1-800-946-6234 for your free no-obligation quote.
This is important news for women using birth control medications and devices. If you or a loved one have been diagnosed with a pseudotumor after using one of these birth control drugs or devices, you may be eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. Contact the law firm of Davis & Crump right now if you or a loved one have used one of these birth control medications or devices and were diagnosed with a pseudotumor to see if you are eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. Call now. Operators are standing by.
Listen to this important message. If you owe money to the IRS, you will want to hear this. Penalties and interest compound daily on your back taxes, putting you under a mountain of debt. Tax 10,000 has years of experience connecting people with tax resolution specialists. Working through the IRS Fresh Start program, they will handle all the necessary forms, and if you qualify, you may end up saving thousands of dollars. Call Tax 10,000 at 800-773-4604.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace? Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts. Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C Show. Glad you could be with us. And just before we went to break, we had a guy in the back row raising his hand. What'd you want, Sal? What'd you want?
I forgot. No. We were talking about Lomachenko and Rigondeaux. And, you know, what's going to be in Rigondeaux's future? I mean, is he going to be a quitter, this and that? Well, I immediately thought back to, you know, the time when Jake LaMotta was having a hard time getting fights. And he went out against Billy Fox and threw the fight. And then, you know, he was told, hey, if you win, you win. If you lose, you still win because you're going to get fights. So who knows? Maybe Rigondeaux now in his own weight class, everybody could be coming out of the woodwork because they think he's vulnerable and they think he's going to be beat. So let's see what he could do to resurrect his career. Because well, I'll tell you what he did that night, how can a promoter have the confidence that they're going to have a fighter that's back on the top of the game, not going to quit and not going to disappoint the fans and the audience, you know?
You know, I was a front runner and really complaining about the size difference between Lomachenko and Rigondeaux, but the truth of the matter is you know, on fight night they look the same size. So I'm not going to give him that. I'm not, even though I mentioned that, you know, when we were breaking down the fight. But anyway, David Lemieux and Billy Joe Saunders are going at it, and one thing I want to say, you know, and I'm in the chat room trying to get some points across here. I'm going to break down the fights and stuff on tomorrow. I guess we're not doing the show on Thursday, but I'll be breaking down the fights. But Billy Joe Saunders, and obviously we're talking about Billy Joe Saunders and David Lemieux, but Billy Joe Saunders, there's one thing I'm just going to say about this guy right now that I've, as I'm as I'm learning more about Billy Joe Saunders. Early in his career, when you take a look at his career, and I'm talking about when he turned pro, back in 2009, if you take a look at some of the fighters he fought, now, for the uneducated boxing fan, they look at a guy like he made his pro debut against a guy, Atalia Molnar, 12-12-6, right? So you're talking about a guy with 30 professional fights. And Billy Joe Saunders fought him. In his third fight, he fought a guy 13-52. All right. Now, from the uneducated boxing fan, they would look at those fighters and they would say, "Oh, look at these bums." But here's the thing: when you're a pro and when you turn pro, and you fight against a guy, even at 13-52, 52 losses, this is a guy that has been in there, almost 70 fights, professional fights. And they bring something in the education and learning aspect of a pro fighter. This is the type of fights that you can't avoid. When you look at even David Lemieux, when you look at his resume and you look at his first 10 or 12 fights, nowhere did he fight an experienced fighter like Billy Joe Saunders. He fought 2-0 guys, 1-2, pro debuts. I mean, guys they bring in that don't stand a chance. When you fight a guy and you're a young fighter on the way up and you're fighting a guy with 60 or 70 fights early on, this guy, I don't care if he lost every one of them, he's bringing in 70 fights of experience to a pro debut or a fighter with a handful of pro fights. That is a tricky guy to fight. I mean, tell me I'm wrong, Sal. I mean, what do you think?
Billy, I'll tell you what, that I had no idea, and I'm glad you pointed that out, because that is a surmountable kind of opposition, no matter what skill level, no matter how. I mean, those are years, those are fights, those are recorded rounds of experience. Whether you win, lose, or draw, you have had some experience behind you. You know what to expect, you know what to anticipate. So I give him all that more credit. I mean, you know what? I didn't make my pro debut against a guy who had 50 fights, professional fights. I'll admit that. But I'll tell you what. No, that is quite a feat. And, yes, in that long career with 10 wins and maybe 40 losses, guess what? The guy has had some victories in between. The guy has had some things. He is a professional opponent, but he's still dangerous. Every fighter is still dangerous because they bring to the game still that level of conditioning, that level of experience. They've been there, they've done that. So you never know. Like I said, they did have a few wins, and I think that's a pretty good start out of the gate. My credit to him.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I promoted fights, and I remember having, and this is my problem with fight, and I say it all the time. This is my problem with the way fighters are moved today. It's not the fighter's fault. It's the management that's afraid to get the loss because, boxing has become the value is in the O. And, when you have a fighter that's fighting all the toughest fights and he's got an O, that's a guy that's a badass. You got a guy that's coddled, and David Lemieux is a good example because he was so overprotected. And I got to call some early fights in Canada with David Lemieux, and his first trainer was Russ Amber, and I was even saying to Russ one time, when's he going to step up, and we're taking our time with him, we're taking our time, and this is a guy blowing away, guys that shouldn't have even been in the ring. And then when he loses, everybody's like, oh, he was exposed. And obviously David Lemieux learned a valuable lesson in that first loss and then subsequently another one after that. And I think, has improved immensely in his last few fights. Billy Joe Saunders has had the luxury of learning and fighting these experienced fighters on his way up. So now, when he steps in the ring, and I personally was not giving him much of a chance against David Lemieux, but as I've been looking and divulging deeper into his career, this is a guy David Lemieux is going to have his hands full. with. I mean, it's going to be a tough fight, and I'm looking forward to it. Some of the comments that these guys have made over the last couple of days, David Lemieux said, I'm really excited for this fight. I'm more excited, actually, just to lay my hands on Billy Joe Saunders more than anything else. He's got a big mouth. I'm going to make him pay for it in the ring. All this animosity is going to come out in the ring. If he thinks he can run away for 12 rounds, he's in a lot of trouble. He said a whole bunch of things, just his character. He is who he is, and I don't like him. David Lemieux says also, I've never said that I doubted his chin. Regardless, he's going to hit the floor. And whether I win by knockout or 12 rounds, it doesn't matter. But I will drop him and I will hurt him. There's a lot of fans in England who have written to me because they don't like Billy Joe Saunders and they want me to get rid of him. So I'm going to do everybody a favor. I'll take care of him. The one thing that David Lemieux has to watch out for, Sal, is Billy Joe Saunders' son, because Billy Joe Saunders' son kicks everybody in the watch. But anyway, Billy Joe Saunders says
it's only at the weigh-in.
I know. Billy Joe Saunders says when asked about David Lemieux's knockout ratio, he says he's knocked out bums, knocking out old men. But he's got stuck against Rubio. Rubio's the guy I was referring to when Lemieux lost that night on ESPN. He says he's a tough man with power. He lost his next fight, then fought bums all the way up to Triple G. Curtis Stevens, not an A-level fighter. He's just a step in, a bit seasonal fighter. He's really nothing special. He dealt with him, fair play, but he's got spanked by Triple G previously to that. When you mix him up against the very, very best of the league, he's not quite too comfortable. He didn't win a round against Triple G. David has no chance of winning against me. I'm convinced that he will not make the distance against me. I'm willing to bet my part of my purse to charity if I lose, and the winner will choose which charity to give it to. I'm not here for the money or anything like that. I'm here to make a statement. There's no point in talking anymore. All that matters now is what happens on Saturday. I can't wait for this fight. What a great fight to close out 2017. I mean, when you look at 2017 and all the great fights we had, Sal, I mean, could we ask for a better fight to close out the year?
No, Bill, this is going to be a signature fight. And you know I'm a big David Lemieux fan. And not too many people, except for maybe Kell Brook, Dave Lemieux, and Canelo Alvarez, could say that they have improved or they've gone on after a fight with Triple G. But Dave Lemieux, I think he's learned some valuable lessons in the last 2 years. We hope that we're going to see the Dave Lemieux that we know possesses the power. I know he's looked a little thick-skinned in the ring of late, but you know what? He still is effective. He still delivers, and I'm a big Lemieux fan. I'm going to say it right here and now. And I'd like to learn a little bit more about Billy Joe Saunders, and I'm going to start hunting on that for the show on Thursday. But I'll tell you what, it's going to be a great fight. I can't wait to see it, and may the best man win.
I think, Billy Joe Saunders, I don't know if I believe what he's saying in terms of he's not doing it for the money. He is definitely doing it for the money. That's why they call it prize fighting, But the truth of the matter is he beats David Lemieux. The winner of this fight, regardless of whether it's Billy Joe Saunders or David Lemieux, is in a really good spot. And I got news for you. The loser of this fight's in a good spot, too, because this is what I see. This is what I see happening. And then we're going to take a break. And actually, we're kicking you to the curb for a half hour. You're coming back at 9, so don't. You're coming back after Larry, okay. So don't go too far. But here's what I see happening in this fight. The winner of this fight will go and fight the winner of the rematch between Triple G and Canelo, which incidentally, some reports that I've heard is that it's 95% done, the deal. So don't think for a minute that fight's not going to happen. But I see the winner of this fight fighting the winner of that fight to basically be the undisputed world middleweight champion. But I also see the two losers fighting each other, Sal.
Yes.
To get another shot at the winner of the two winners. I mean, what's better than that in the middleweight division? I mean, come on. You got the best middleweights fighting each other. And, you got the second best middleweights fighting each other. And then have the two winners fight each other, have the losers fight each other, and the winner of the two losers earns a shot at the winner of the two winners. And then now we end up with, 3 good fights. I know we're gonna have a good fight on Saturday. I know we're gonna have a good fight with the rematch with Triple G and Canelo, and then we could potentially have 2 more good fights. So I guess that's 4 good fights. 2 more good fights with the winners against the winners and the losers against the losers. So I'm looking forward to this, my man.
Man, let me tell you, you just did the round robin and the whole thing. I'll tell you, all eyes are going to be on for 2018, the middleweight division and the heavyweight division and maybe a few others. But I'll tell you what, that is a phenomenal depiction. And those are going to be some great, great events that happen. And everyone, you know who's going to win? The fans. The fans are going to win because they're going to see some top fights in that middleweight division.
Exactly. Sal, we'll see you in about a half hour. We're kicking Sal to the curb. I'm going to take a short break. When I come back, Larry Hazzard is scheduled to join us. So don't go nowhere.
Billy C will be right back.
Snacking has never been this exciting. At Graze.com, we combine wholesome ingredients with the flavors we all love to create over 100 exciting snacks. Like these. We'd love to send you a sampler box for free. Just go to Graze.com, enter the code ENJOY36, and we'll mail your free box to your home or office. Join thousands of grazers already in love with our exciting snacks. So come to Graze.com for your first box free.
Broken air conditioning, $4,400. Failing refrigerator, $2,500. Don't let outrageous repair and replacement bills like these bust your budget. Get the First American Home Warranty Plan. And when a covered appliance or system breaks, we'll repair it or replace it for you.
We had a high-end dishwasher go kaput. They put it in a brand new dishwasher.
We have plans that cover air conditioning, most appliances, plus heating, plumbing, electrical systems, and much more. Plans start as low as $25 a month. Why let a major appliance or system breakdown bust your budget or go through the hassle of finding trustworthy service people? Last year alone, we saved our customers over $120 million. Don't wait until something breaks and you're stuck with a huge bill.
You save a lot of money. It's absolutely worth it.
If you don't have First American Warranty, get it.
Call 1-800-946-6234 for your free no-obligation quote.
This is important news for people who had a hip.
Hey, fight fans, check out KOFantasyBoxing.com. KO Fantasy Boxing is boxing's only trademarked fantasy game. Check it out, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Select your own gym, your own fighters, track them through a season that can last from 3 months to a year, depending upon which league you join. You got to check this out, man, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Join it today. Again, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. And tell them Billy C sent ya.
Now back to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C, the only radio host man enough to take a punch from Mike Tyson.
Wait a minute, man. Hold on there. Jeremy, man, I need you to take this one, all right?
Wait, what? No way. I can't do this.
Need I remind you I'm Billy C, damn it? Now put on that mustache and get in there.
Hey, look at me. I'm Billy C. Crap.
The undisputed heavyweight champion of Boxing Talk Radio. It's Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C Show. Glad you could be with us today. And joining me right now, like he always does on Wednesdays, is my man, Boxing Hall of Famer, New Jersey Boxing Commissioner, Larry Hazzard. Good morning, Larry.
Good morning, Billy. How you doing? Cold up there, huh?
Yeah. You know, what's funny is you guys got hit with some snow, and my pops calls me and says, "Oh, did it snow up there?" I said, "Yeah, we just got a little dusting. It wasn't bad at all." And he says, "Oh man, we got it bad down here." And then the next day came. I wake up, there's 10 inches of snow. We're getting snow today, tomorrow. I'm like, what's going on? I was spoiled. But then again, it is the middle of December already, Larry.
Yeah, it's almost Christmas.
I know. Don't remind me.
No.
last weekend.
Well, I don't.
What's that?
I don't like the snow. So what we got a few days ago was like rain. It wasn't really sticking. It was just coming down, melting once it hit the ground. So that's okay. I don't have a problem with that. Man, when you start getting that snow where it's deep and you can't drive, I'm just not a snow guy, man.
I'm not anymore either. I'm not a cold guy. I mean, it used to never bother me. See, the difference between up here and downstate and where you are is that, like you said, it snows, you could get a foot and it's gone in 2 days. Once it hits the ground here, it stays until summertime. It's like I feel like I'm in Alaska. But anyway, this past weekend, big fight. We anticipated a big fight between Vasyl Lomachenko and Guillermo Rigondeaux, and a lot of people have been saying a lot of positive things about Lomachenko, et cetera, et cetera. I was concerned. I'll be honest. I was concerned before the fight about the size difference. I thought that Lomachenko was going to be way bigger and everything else, but to my surprise, they looked like they were the same size in the ring. They had the rehydration clause. So I thought it was pretty even. I'm not going to give Rigondeaux, any pass for being a smaller guy because for all intent and purposes, they were the same size. But, man, did Lomachenko put on a show and cause Rigondeaux to quit? I know he said he hurt his hand. What I witnessed in that ring, Larry, and I'm curious to get your thoughts, was what I call the sweet science. An example of a guy who's right in front of his opponent, where they both are arm distance away, where you can inflict damage on each other, and both were known for their defensive skill and the sweet science overall. And Lomachenko was a guy that seemingly was hitting Rigondeaux at will, and Rigondeaux couldn't get off. He couldn't get off punches. It was like he had no answer for this guy. And keeping in mind, between the two of them, 4 gold medals and over 900 amateur fights, experience obviously was equal. What was your assessment of the performance, the fight, the whole nine?
Well, I was amazed. I was amazed and very surprised at the same time. Because actually, I thought that I thought Rigondeaux was going to win, because he had been so dominant in his past performances that he was boring. His dominance made him, especially his boxing skills, his offensive and defensive skills in most of his fights leading up to this, had actually made him a boring fighter. And for a long time, I felt that people really didn't appreciate the sweet science as was best displayed by Rigondeaux. So he got, in this particular fight, he just got out. I mean, this Lomachenko, he just overwhelmed him. And I was just totally surprised at the overwhelming performance that Lomachenko put on, and he stood right in front of him. You saw almost every aspect of the sweet, as you say, the sweet science, angles, movement, maneuvers, and he just totally dominated him. And it was so surprising. And of course, the way the fight ended, I lost a lot of respect for Rigondeaux for what I thought he just quit right on the stool, because the reason that he gave that, he hurt his hand, and he landed a punch. So how did he hurt his hand? His hand may have been hurt before he came in. I don't know. But he certainly didn't hurt his hand in the ring, because he didn't land a punch. I didn't see not one telling blow that could be attributed to hurting someone's hand. He didn't come anywhere near hitting Lomachenko in the head or in the facial area. So, I just lost a lot of respect, because I thought that he was so overwhelmed that he quit. But what we saw was an amazing display of defense and offense from Lomachenko.
I agree. And as far as the Rigondeaux quitting, a lot of people were trying to compare it with when Roberto Duran quit against Sugar Ray Leonard, and you know something, I don't, and I'll tell you why, and I'm curious to get your thoughts, and I know Sugar Ray Leonard's your guy, right? But here's the difference, at least in my opinion. Yes, I'll start off by saying this. Yes, Roberto Duran quit. I mean, there's no question about it. But I believe that the reason why he quit was because he was frustrated, because he was the kind of guy, and he hadn't, even though he had been around for over a decade going into that fight, he really hadn't learned fighting a guy like Sugar Ray Leonard. He was more used to, okay, who's the bigger man? Who mano a mano, and let's go in there and we slug it out. And Sugar Ray Leonard was hitting him and getting out of harm's way, and it frustrated Duran to the point where he was like, forget it, I'm not going to fight you. If you're not going to fight like a man, I don't want to fight you. The difference with Rigondeaux was exactly, the way I look at it, was exactly what you said. He's right there in front of Lomachenko and can't lay a hand on him. I mean, the frustration level was two different types, in my opinion. And figured at one point of the when he quit, he figured, hey, this is the way it's going to go for 6 more rounds, 7 more rounds. Why waste my time? I'm just going to, because I read between the lines his corner was pissed at him too. His corner was very upset to say it was over. They were saying the same stuff. You're not throwing punches, and it wasn't that he wasn't trying. He couldn't. Every time he went to let his hands go, Lomachenko wasn't there to be hit. What was your thoughts on the actual quitting?
Well, I think that quite differently, and I agree with you. Your analogy between the Duran and Rigondeaux. What Sugar Ray Leonard did to Duran was vintage Sugar Ray Leonard. He not only defeated him physically, I think he was in better condition, number one, going in. Because we know how Duran had blown up after the first victory, and he actually thought that he owned Sugar Ray after that first victory. Okay, so he went and got as much out of shape as he could get, and he really never got in the good physical condition that Ray was in. That's number one. Ray defeated him physically going in. But what really might be even more important, Duran allowed Ray to really get in his head. Ray defeated him psychologically, okay, which is a perfect example of how athletic competition, especially combative sports, the vital importance of psychology, of getting in the opponent's head, and how much that contributes to a victory. So Ray beat him with two important elements. Physically, he was in better condition, okay, and psychologically, he got so much inside of Roberto Duran's head that Roberto was just totally overwhelmed from those two crucial areas. Now, with Rigondeaux and Lomachenko, it was more, in my opinion, not so much psychological, but it was just pure mastery and skill. Rigondeaux could not handle what was in front of him, and he just was so overwhelmed that somewhere in his psyche, he had made up his mind that, hey, there's no way that I'm going to win this fight. There's no way that I could beat this guy. And instead of getting carried out on my back in a knockout, maybe I can salvage some of this by selling to the fans that I injured my hand and that's why I quit. But he just out and out quit because he was so overwhelmed. That's my opinion. Lomachenko was right there. I mean, it was like, you want to engage? Here I am. And he was just so overwhelming that, Rigondeaux just gave up. That's the way I saw that.
Yeah. The one other thing, which the Sugar, not to get too much on that, but the Sugar Ray Leonard. Remember the first fight, he didn't fight Sugar Ray. Sugar Ray Leonard didn't fight like Sugar Ray Leonard in the first fight. So Roberto Duran, didn't. He probably was thinking, this guy's, like you said, I own this guy. He's nothing, And then he got to face the real Sugar Ray Leonard in the second fight. But the other fight I want to talk about on this card was actually the Irish Olympian Michael Conlan. I see some promise in this kid. The one thing I didn't like, and it just bothers me when young fighters do it, and then you hear the excuse. Well, they
his hands.
Yeah, his hands are down, man. You're reading my mind. You know what I'm saying? And then
we think alike.
The worst part about it is when they defend it, Larry. They'll say, "Well, when I'm in with a better guy, my hands will go up." And I'm always like, "No, when I owned this gym, and I remember I had a heavyweight I was working with, and he used to do that in the gym when he's sparring. I go, "What are you doing?" He said, "Well, I'm out of harm's way." I thought, well, you need to practice keeping your hands up all the time. Because when you're in a fight and you think you're out of harm's way after several rounds, and maybe you're misjudging that distance a little bit, and you let your hands down, that's when you wake up in the locker room. I mean, a guy that shows this much promise, I just can't understand why his corner's not emphasizing to keep your hands up. What do you think?
Well, once again, it's that tendency towards showmanship, okay? And they forget that there was only one Muhammad Ali, okay? Now, Muhammad Ali was such a gifted fighter that he did almost everything the wrong way. Dropped his hands, pulling back from punches, things of that nature, okay? So we have to give that to Ali and attribute it to his greatness and his just pure boxing ability and skills. But with these younger generation of fighters coming up, this tendency towards showmanship, towards demonstrating their mastery to the crowd by sort of, dropping their hands, the fancy shuffles and walking to the side, clowning, sticking out the tongue, all of this nonsense, can get them in trouble. And I think that it starts early in their careers, just like this kid Conlan, okay, and his trainers, his corner people, insisting and drilling him in the gym like you did with your fighter, making him understand that these types of antics could get you in trouble, especially dropping the hands. And he's still in the developmental stage of his professional career. He's not a champion yet. He hasn't really proven anything yet, other than the fact that he's on his way up, okay? So I think that that's a sign that his head might be getting too big, that he thinks that and another thing, you got to be careful, keep putting these fruitcakes in front of these guys on the way up, because that's the quickest way to spoil a fighter. Then when he goes in against some real competition, he finds himself in a lot of trouble. So I agree with you 100% that that's a bad habit that needs to be nipped in the bud right now, okay? And I think that this kid does show some promise, and if he continues to improve, we're going to hear some big things from him also in the future.
Yeah, I agree with you. And good habits or bad habits are hard to break. Habits are hard to break. That's why they call them habits, and if they're not emphasizing now at this stage, it's going to be something that follows him all the way through his career, and it's a shame. And obviously I agree with you 100% about putting fighters in too lightly early on. And we were actually talking about that just before you came on air about the big fight coming up this weekend between Lemieux and Billy Joe Saunders. For the longest time, I'm writing off Billy Joe Saunders, and then as I'm starting to do my, research, so to speak, to prepare to break down the fight, I'm seeing that early in Billy Joe Saunders' career, and I'm talking early, first several fights, he fought some experienced guys. Now, the guy that doesn't know much about boxing and sees a pro debut guy against a 13-52 guy says, "Oh, look at this guy, lost 52 fights, he's a bum." but he's still a guy that fought over 60 pro fights against a pro debut guy. You know, that says something. To me, we don't see that in the U.S. We see a guy fighting the first 10, 15 fights against fighters with pro debut records or 3 or 4 fights, professional opponents that come in and their career lasts for 3 fights, you know, and it makes a big difference on the up, you know, like when they're moving up, I think, you know, but anyway. And one last thing, your guy, Shakur Stevenson, there's a good example. This kid shows all the promise, and I think they realize, because remember, his first couple of fights, I thought they put him in, you know, he had a great amateur career, whatever, but I thought they put him in with some grizzly guys that made him not look as spectacular as he could. And now they seem to be backtracking a little bit, and they're putting him in with these lower level guys. And my question is it helping him or hurting him? What do you think?
Well, I'm telling you, man, great minds think alike. I was very disappointed in the opponent. How many punches did this guy throw? Did he throw any punches? Shakur, in my opinion, in this fight, and I'm not taking away anything from Shakur because I love the kid, okay? But I hope that in their quest to get a knockout or a few technical knockouts on his record, they don't go too far the other way. Because this guy, okay, came in with nothing. I mean, I'm looking at this fight and I'm saying, oh my gosh, what are they doing? Okay, what did he learn from that? See, when a kid is on the way up, you have to map his course. You know, you got to put him in with guys that's going to make him work a little bit, guys that's going to bring out certain abilities, help to polish up those skills. Somewhere along the line, you might throw him in with a sophomore who possibly is not a great puncher, but somebody that's going to make him work. This is how you're engineering this kid up the line, through the matchmaking. I felt that they made a big error with this guy because this guy didn't need Shakur, okay, because he was no match for him, but Shakur didn't need this guy either, okay, because it was like a wasted effort. He learned nothing. I was sitting there and I'm like, well, I mean, you know, feeding him a punching bag like this, what's the purpose of this? So I was disappointed, you know. I hope that in the next fight, they put him in with a bigger, at least a little bit more of a test, so that, you know, even some skills that he possesses can be displayed, because oftentimes, you know, good fighters only fight to the level of their opposition. So in many ways, the fans did not get the opportunity in that fight to see some of Shakur's real skills, because the opposition was like a big zero, you know. So he did enough to stop this guy. He got him out of there, which is something that he should have done, okay. If he hadn't taken this guy out, I would have been very disappointed, because I'm saying, hey, here's no competition, and he couldn't stop this guy, or he couldn't knock him out or whatever. So he did that. I was satisfied with that, but I was not satisfied with the level of competition. I thought that he didn't need this guy like this guy didn't need him. And hopefully going forward, you know, they'll keep him on track like they had him in the beginning. You know, give him some opponents that's going to make him work, that's going to bring out the best in this kid. And I think that you know, we're gonna see a lot more of Shakur and his skills. So that's the way I felt about that one.
It's almost like this guy should have been his pro debut, you know, and then they should have, you know, progressed with some of the other fighters he's already fought. You know, I mean, that was my point.
Right.
Like you know what I mean? Like you don't want to regress. You know, you put him in a little tough to begin with, which I thought they did. And, you know, now all of a sudden they're regressing. Well, that doesn't help a fighter, you know. I mean, it's the other way around. You're supposed to progress.
That's right.
You're supposed to, put him in a little tougher. And I agree. I mean, you're talking old school. Sprinkle in a southpaw, short guy, a tall guy, a lanky guy, a guy that can box, a guy that punches. That's how they used to do it. That's why fighters never got a shot at a world title till they had 40 fights. And then today, he fought a southpaw. Now he knows how to fight southpaws. What are you talking about? You fight one southpaw, now you know how to fight southpaws? No, you got to fight a tall one, a short one, a body puncher, a boxer. You fight 6 or 7 or 10 southpaws. Now you got some experience against southpaws. So it's a joke. And speaking of jokes, listen, nobody wants to see the ultimate heavyweight fight between AJ, Anthony Joshua, and Deontay Wilder. And I'll be honest, I thought that Luis Ortiz would be a good challenge for Deontay Wilder. But what I witnessed on Friday when they put Luis Ortiz, who incidentally, Larry, looked like he was in good shape compared to what I've seen before. I've called a couple of his fights, and I've seen him live several times. But he's still 37, 38 years old. He looked very ordinary to me against a guy with virtually no skills in Daniel Martz. But what bothered me wasn't that. What bothered me was the WWE feel I got from that event, and the fact that Deontay was sitting ringside, and they're, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that to you. They bring him up into the ring. I mean, I was waiting for Vince McMahon and Mean Gene Okerlund to pop out and start talking to Jesse the Body Ventura. I mean, it was so wrestling-esque. I couldn't take it. What was your thoughts on the fight?
Well, basically the same. I mean, Ortiz, I always felt was a legitimate heavyweight, okay, but he looked very ordinary in that fight. And as far as the WWF analogy, you're right on with that. We get somehow boxing falls in. I felt the same way with McGregor and Mayweather. With their press tour, that was all pure WWF all the way, and I think that boxing should stay away from that. Sometimes you go overboard with this bullshit. I'm going to do this to you. You're going to do. We already know, basically going in, that in my opinion, I don't think Ortiz is any match for Wilder. Wilder's going to beat him. Ortiz is a legitimate heavyweight, I think, but I think that with his age and everything else that you throw in, that he's not going to beat Wilder, unless he lands a punch so telling that Wilder, he knocks him out. But I think that this WWF crap, nobody really wants to see it because nobody's falling for it anyway. So, they're just going through an act that's unnecessary, and it doesn't look good for boxing's image, in my opinion. So we should try to stay away from that type of nonsense. I don't appreciate it. Really.
I agree, but people do fall for it. What I really hate is the fact that we all know that Anthony Joshua made an offer to Deontay Wilder, and a substantial one. Wilder is holding out for 50-50, which I don't believe he deserves.
He's not going to get.
And I don't believe he deserves it. So we know that. We've discussed that on this show. And yet they spin it last week saying he's ducking us both, so we have to fight each other. And there's fans that email me and tell me, that's the case, and I laugh. One last thing I want to mention to you, and this I kind of did it out of order because, and no disrespect to Orlando Salido and Mickey Roman, was a great, entertaining fight against two guys virtually in the same position of their careers. We got treated to a good fight, and thankfully Salido is going to hang him up. But what I wanted to talk about was the other fight. Jean Pascal fought the undefeated kid Ahmed Abiliai. And this is an exact example of what we were talking about before when we were talking about Shakira Stevenson. Here's a guy in Abiliai who demonstrated that he's got a solid chin, he's big, he's strong, but he never fought anybody for his 16 fights going into this fight against Jean Pascal. I was one of the only people that picked Jean Pascal. And Jean Pascal was never anything special. He's well beyond his best. I thought the best fight he had was way back when he fought, what's his name, from in England years and years ago. I don't have to get into that. But the truth of the matter is that Abiliai, without the experience of fighting a guy like Jean Pascal, what made his team think that after 16 fights against cupcakes that he would go in against a former world champion, a guy that was in there with guys like B-Hop, and win? What was your thoughts on that one?
Well, they felt that he was done. See, they felt that he was so used up and that he was a big enough, that he was a name that would look good on his Abiliai's resume, and they were willing to take a chance. You know, that's basically what it was. But here's a guy who's fought nobody, okay, and you're going to throw him in against a former world champion, okay? So now that's not only an insult to his skills, whether he still possesses skills at the same level or not, but it's an insult to him as a fighter that, you know, you would think so lowly of him that you're going to bring in this neophyte, basically, okay, against a former world champion and expect for him to win. And so that's basically the mentality there. And when you're dealing with, you know, non-fight people, for the most part, that really don't know what they're doing when they're trying to, you know, manage these fighters and get them to, you know, titles, these are the types of mistakes that they make along the way. And that's what happens, you know.
Yeah, I still look back at Jean Pascal. I mean, when he fought Carl Froch, and that was a great fight. That's what put him on the map.
That was that's what put him on the map.
Yep,
that's right.
Yep. And he really didn't improve much. But you know, he had enough left to beat a kid that never was exposed to anything. And this goes back to, you know, the TV execs and the management and promotions, et cetera, trying to overprotect and feeling that they can only sell a guy if he's got the O, you know. And I'm hoping, you know what, I'm seeing that changing now, Larry. And, you know, I'm glad. We had a great year, 2017. We got some good fights coming up, 2018. So I'm looking forward to the resurgence to continue. And I'm excited about it. And I'm real excited about the fight this weekend, so I look forward to your thoughts on that one next week, my man.
Okay. I'm looking forward to it too, Billy.
David Lemieux, Billy Joe Saunders is not going to be an easy fight for either one of these guys. I think it's going to end the year with a bang.
It's going to be a good fight.
It is. Yeah. It is. I'm excited about it. But listen, you have a great weekend. Enjoy the fights. We'll talk to you next week, brother.
Okay, Billy. You too, buddy.
All right, Larry. Take care. That's Larry Hazzard, Boxing Hall of Fame and New Jersey Boxing Commissioner, giving us his thoughts. Can't wait to watch Lemieux, Billy Joe Saunders. And then, of course, we'll get Larry's thoughts on that next week. I'm going to take a short break. When we come back, I got some emails to read. A bunch of other stuff, too. Don't go nowheres, is my point.
Billy C will be right back. Check out.
Listen to this important message. If you owe money to the IRS, you will want to hear this. Penalties and interest compound daily on your back taxes, putting you under a mountain of debt. Tax 10,000 has years of experience connecting people with tax resolution specialists. Working through the IRS Fresh Start program, they will handle all the necessary forms, and if you qualify, you may end up saving thousands of dollars. Call Tax 10,000 at 800-773-4604.
This is important news for women using birth control medications and devices. If you or a loved one have been diagnosed with a pseudotumor after using one of these birth control drugs or devices, you may be eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. Contact the law firm of Davis & Crump right now if you or a loved one have used one of these birth control medications or devices and were diagnosed with a pseudotumor to see if you are eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. Call now. Operators are standing by.
Broken air conditioning, $4,400. Failing refrigerator, $2,500. Don't let outrageous repair and replacement bills like these bust your budget. Get the First American Home Warranty Plan. And when a covered appliance or system breaks, we'll repair it or replace it for you.
We had a high-end dishwasher go kaput. They put it in a brand new dishwasher.
We have plans that cover air conditioning, most appliances, plus heating, plumbing, electrical systems, and much more. Plans start as low as $25 a month. Why let a major appliance or system breakdown bust your budget or go through the hassle of finding trustworthy service people? Last year alone, we saved our customers over $120 million. Don't wait until something breaks and you're stuck with a huge bill.
You save a lot of money. It's absolutely worth it.
If you don't have First American warranty, get it.
Call 1-800-946-6234 for your free no-obligation quote. Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Now back to Talking Boxing with Billy C. He may not have an Excellence in Broadcasting award, but the night's still young.
And he's got martinis.
So you never know what may be by morning. It's Talking Boxing with Billy C.
Talking Boxing with Billy C. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us. And don't forget about getting a couple of copies of my book for the holidays. You want to give it out for gifts, don't you? Just visit the website, BillyCBoxing.com, and click on the book. Joining me again, my man Sal Rocky Cenicola. And Sal, I got some emails to read. You ready to roll?
I am ready, and I enjoyed that segment with Mr. Hazzard. He's a great man. You guys do a great job.
Larry's he's the best. He's
class act, 100% across the board from day one.
Knows his stuff.
Yes,
which
he does.
Is a big thing. But anyway, we got some emails. This first one's from Mitch. He says Tyson Fury failed to show up for his UKAD hearing. That's United Kingdom Anti-Doping Agency hearing the other day. Then today I see a press release that says while Tyson and Huey were ready and prepared to see the hearing through, they decided to settle and bring this long-running dispute to a close. He says, what do they mean by settle? It sounds crazy. Sounds like some money exchanged hands. What do you think, Sal?
Settle is settle. That means, you compromise. You give a little bit of this, you give a little bit of that, and it may not be 100% our way. It's not going to be 100% your way, but guess what? We're going to meet somewhere in the middle, and we're all going to be happy, and we're going to go on. So, yeah, I think there was definitely some friendly exchanges of words and handshakes, and it is what it is. Settle is settle. It was swept under. Probably a little censure, a little slap on the wrist, and let's go on. And maybe periodic testing a little more often than otherwise required.
We got another email. Thanks for the email, Mitch. This one's from your guy, Raheem. Good morning, Billy and Sal. This is Raheem here. He says, how long is it going to take for Joshua to sign and fight Wilder? It looks like the fight is like Mayweather against Pacquiao, when Pacquiao had the chance to sign, but he turned it down because of him not respecting that Floyd wanted the Olympic testing, and Manny turned down Floyd's offer of money, and Manny delayed a great fight in their prime. I always got to laugh at this guy because he's got such a diluted opinion on stuff. I mean, this is a clear case of a young fan drinking the Floyd Mayweather Kool-Aid, that smoke screen that so many young fans have been lied to, and it's sickening. It wasn't Manny. I'm not even going to respond on that. Anyway, and I got news for you. It's not Anthony Joshua either. Wilder never made $2 million in his life. What makes that mean that he deserves a 50-50 split? Forget about it. He says Wilder. He said, let me read the rest of it. He says Wilder has the major belt. the WBC, that has true lineage of the real champion. And the WBC is the most respected belt out there. I think Wilder wanting to stay in England to fight shows he doesn't want to come to the U.S. when he can make more in Las Vegas. I also want to give props to Lomachenko. I thought Guillermo was going to knock him out because he was undefeated with 11 knockouts. My father told me that Lomachenko was going to outbox him because of his power. I think Lomachenko is a boxer to look forward to. You know what I think, Raheem? I think you got to listen to your father a lot more than you do. Your father seems to know about the sport. The WBC is just one of 4 belts. Is it a recognized belt? Do people have a tendency to want it? Yeah. Okay. Is it probably the better one of the sanctioning bodies? I would lean towards the WBC, my personal opinion. But do not for a minute think that Deontay Wilder is in any kind of driver's seat. He's not even in the same car as Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua has the potential to make $20 or $30 million every time he steps in the ring against anybody in England. Why the hell would he come to the United States? There's no way in hell he would be able to make the same money in Las Vegas. And besides, Deontay Wilder can't draw flies to a garbage convention. He calls Barclays Center in Brooklyn his second home. Why do they walk the streets of Brooklyn asking anybody if they've ever heard of him? Nobody's ever heard of him. You know, please, Raheem, listen to your father, because he seems to know a hell of a lot more about the reality of the sport of boxing than you do. Would you like to add anything to that, Sal?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm going to give Raheem a little bit of not a pass, but hey, listen, he's a young fan. He's learning the game, and he is pretty much subject to what the media, what the people that he's biting down on listening. So he's not as well rounded. He's more like a fighter making his pro debut in a 4-rounder. All right, so he's gonna mature. Raheem's gonna see the light. He's gonna know all the ins and outs. But he's a young fan learning the game, learning the sport. And yes, as you pointed out, Billy, this is not Anthony Joshua avoiding to sign a contract with Deontay Wilder. The whole picture, if it was spelled out, it's a battle of attrition with even getting to the signing of a contract. You've got to negotiate. You've got to do this. But Joshua has given Deontay Wilder an opportunity to make more money than he ever has in his career. So with that being said, Anthony Joshua is in complete control in the driver's seat with this fight. And I think that Deontay Wilder should be able to compromise and a little bit of understanding that with the rematch clause or something else, that there's going to be some big things for him in the big picture. So Raheem, I think that he's well on his way. He's a prospect learning the fight game. He will become a main event fighter one day, Raheem, and you. And so I think that he's learning the trade at a young level. That's all I'm saying.
I think Raheem is a pure example of what has happened to our young boxing fans, the one that bought all the BS that Floyd Mayweather spewed over the last several years. His value is in his value is in all the wrong things. Let's face it. At the end of the day, the best fight the best in the sport of boxing. The best challenge themselves. They try to prove that they're the best by fighting the best. The best prove to themselves and to the boxing world that they do things above and beyond what's expected. That's what the best fighters do. That's what all of the historical fighters, the fighters that live on forever in the memory of fans, are the ones that have done things like that. The ones that have come out and what Roy Jones Jr. is a guy, whether you like him or not, and for a whole generation of fans that have been watching him for the last 10 years, never got to see Roy Jones Jr. in his prime. But here's a guy that won belts all the way up to the heavyweight. I mean, that's something that, fighters need to do. They need to challenge themselves. Now, I'm not suggesting that all fighters need to move up in weight all the way, like they're saying Lomachenko has to fight, Mikey Garcia, or he's got to fight this one, he's got to fight that. No, they don't. But at the end of the day, when you get to that point where you're trying to be an all-time great, a guy that's trying to be, from a historical perspective, etched in stone, the guys that get etched in stone are the guys that do great, great things. You know, I know Raheem is a big Floyd Mayweather fan, but what has Floyd Mayweather done except amass 50 wins and no losses? And that record is not even, it doesn't matter for any division other than the heavyweight division. Floyd was a successful businessman that was able to manipulate young fight fans like Raheem. And unfortunately, we have a whole generation of fight fans that don't know a left hook from a fish hook. Thank God Floyd is gone, hopefully forever, and he says he wants to be a Russian citizen. I hope he moves to Russia. And the truth of the matter is when Floyd's not active in the sport of boxing as a fighter, because personally, if I had my way with Floyd Mayweather, he would focus on his promotion company. He could probably be one of the better promotion companies if he focused on that, not himself. But the truth of the matter is that, you know, when Floyd is not active inside the ring as a fighter, the sport does a hell of a lot better. And 2017 is a great example of that. So I hope he goes to Russia and never comes back. I got another email. This one's from Joel. And that's my honest opinion, Sal. I mean,
I respect it.
I know you're laughing at me. I hope he likes the Russian front. But anyway, and Joel says, "Hey Billy C, I don't mean to put any pressure on you or bother you, but I noticed it's been. Where's my T-shirt? No, but I noticed it's been a while since you've. I don't know. Call Sal about your friggin' T-shirt. All right? No, he says.
I found his address.
He says, but I noticed it's been a while since you've done a post-fight show after a major card. Any word on when you're going to start doing that again? I thought after Saturday's fight would be a great time to do it, but understand you may be tied up with other things in your agenda. I know. I let you guys down, and I have no excuse. But, no, I don't want to make any excuses. But here's the thing. The truth of the matter is I did let you guys down. But I promise that 2018 is going to bring us post-fight shows after every major fight, and unless we're there live. And trust me when I tell you, 2018, we're entering our 15th year in 2018 doing this show. And it is going to be the best year ever. So just keep your shirts on, people. You're gonna love it. We talk about, I've always thought we were the best boxing talk show out there. I still believe we are, and I don't think there's anybody close to competition. And after the beginning of 2018, we are going to distance ourselves so far from the next show. There's going to be no doubt about it. So. Anyway, he says, I got a big free UFC card on Saturday. I got a big free UFC card on Saturday, but have the Saunders-Lemieux card on my tablet for sure. Been a Lemieux fan since 2009. Fight TV is showing a couple off-TV bouts as well Saturday. I really enjoy this kind of card and place like a hotbed for boxing like Montreal. I'm excited for Selden Ulysses Jr. As Ulysses is coming off a very controversial split decision. And the end of October against Steve Claggett. Gustavo Clayton is another Canadian fighter you should keep your eye on. He's fighting too. You got Butler fighting hard against Leonardo Tyner. Montreal heavyweight prospect Simon Keane. I think Joel is an advertising agency for Fight TV. That's what I did. He says, journeyman veteran who has lost to them all. Mike Shepard, all in all, very exciting card. I was a big fan of Montreal. I think Sal would really appreciate Montreal boxing scene. If he has time on Saturday to watch that HBO card, they're very. Thanks, guys. Hey, if Sal better watch the card on Saturday, and I would be shocked if you missed that one, Sal.
No, I mean, and especially, I'm a big fan of Canada and Montreal. I have friends up there, and I fought up in Montreal, and it was my last international bout. Bobby Ches and I went up to, it was the last international bout before we were going to both take that fatal flight over to Warsaw, Poland, that we both did not get on the plane. And but we fought. I fought Davey Hilton Jr. up in Montreal in the old Olympic Center there, and I love Montreal. Love Canada. It's a great place. I'm never going to move there, but I like it. It's a nice place to visit, and I think the fans there really, really out boxing and really are true to the sport. And I'll tell you what, that's the magic right up there. It's a great area, great fan base, and we're going to see some great things coming out of Canada and out of Montreal, especially starting with this weekend.
I love the women in Montreal. They have this European feel and look. Well, I don't want to say feel. That sounded wrong. They have this European feel.
Easy.
No. But they look like European. Let me read the next email. This one is from. Let me moving right along.
Wait. Northern European.
This is from my man Don. He says, "Hey, Billy C, I love your show. I've only been a boxing fan for about 3 years. I started watching a few Muhammad Ali fights. Then I looked up some all-time great fight lists and watched a bunch of those fights on YouTube. I was hooked. Before listening to your show, I was somewhat of a Floyd Mayweather fan. I thought he was a great example of the sweet science. However, after I started listening to your show, I realized I was wrong and didn't know much about boxing. It was time for me to go to school and learn. I listened to many of your older shows on YouTube. I did some reading about boxing. I watched the fights. You recommended a book called The Arc of Boxing, The Rise and Decline of the Sweet Science. This book helped me understand the history of boxing. It was eye-opening. It certainly isn't true about all boxing fans, but there are some fans who just don't know much about the sport. Some fans are too quick to call other boxing fans casuals if they don't agree with them. They act like they're too stupid to know boxing is a subjective sport. I see this often on Facebook, or they'll say things like, if you don't think Floyd Mayweather is the best ever, this means you don't know anything about boxing. Or if you don't like him, it must mean you're a racist. Yeah, dude, I have to stop right now because this is so true. And it bothers the hell out of me, Sal, when you hear that right off the bat. And I get that all the time, right off the bat. You know, and I'm not a big Floyd Mayweather fan. And right off the bat, people, oh, you're racist. No, I'm not. I mean, what does that have to do with anything? I mean, I write a book about a guy who's a freed slave who I'm trying to make awareness about. All my favorite fighters are black. Most of them are all black. I mean, with the exception of Rocky Marciano and Jack Dempsey. I mean, all the other ones I'll name off are all black fighters. How does that make me a racist? You know, just because I don't like one of them. You know, I mean, and I don't like him because the reason why I don't like Mayweather is because I feel that he doesn't do the greats justice because of the path he chose and the route that he chose to be successful in the sport. Now, when I put my business hat on, I don't have anything against Floyd. I commend him for being able to make so much money for doing so little. I really do. You know, and I've always said that one of the things that I do admire about Floyd was the fact that he always stays in good condition. You know, he's always a couple of pounds away from fight condition. And that is huge in the pro game because, you know, the difference between Floyd Mayweather and most of his cherry-picked opponents was the fact that Floyd knew who he was going to fight. And when he went to training camp, he was working on his game plan. He didn't have to work on conditioning and weight loss and this and that like a lot of other fighters do. Floyd never balloons up, much weight after a fight. And that is hard to stay like that. It shows that Floyd is extremely disciplined, and I admire that, you know. But anyway, he says that means he says what I said was people act like you don't know anything about boxing if you don't think Floyd's the best or you're a racist. He says, and then there's idiots who say if Vasyl Lomachenko was black, he wouldn't be in anybody's pound for pound list. Lomachenko is the real deal. Some fans should learn more about boxing before judging anyone who disagrees with them as a casual fan or a racist. Before the Lomachenko haters, Rigondeaux didn't look comfortable at all. I'm sorry. He says before the Lomachenko haters said he shouldn't be considered a top pound for pound fighter because he was only 8-1, then 9-1, or because he lost to Salido. Rigondeaux didn't look at all comfortable against Lomachenko. Lomachenko haters won't give him credit for the win. They'll say Rigo was too old or he was a smaller guy. Nonsense. If Lomachenko fought that beached whale named Tyson Fury and beat him, the haters wouldn't still give him credit. Lomachenko has made 4 opponents in a row quit. He has only 11 pro fights, but he's fought the kind of opposition that a lot of fighters won't face until 20 or 25 fights into their careers. For example, Floyd Mayweather didn't fight somebody who was undefeated until he fought Diego Corrales in his 25th fight. He didn't fight anyone else undefeated until after Ricky Hatton in his 39th fight. Lomachenko has fought 3 guys who were undefeated. Vasyl Lomachenko is very good, and he definitely is one of the top pound-for-pound fighters right now. He's number 1 on my pound-for-pound list. What are your thoughts on that? Where do you have Lomachenko on your pound-for-pound list? First off, thank you very much for your email, Don. It's a pleasure to read, especially a new boxing fan that took the time to go back and do a little research on the sport itself. I think that is extremely important, and I give you a lot of credit for doing that, because it makes your opinions and your comments more substantial, to be able to go back and see what a lot of us old bastards refer to. That book I mentioned, The Rise and Fall of Sweet Science, was not exactly an interesting read in terms of, excitement being glued to the book, but what he pointed out in that book was why boxing was so much better back in the day. The pool of fighters, the amount of fights that took place, the popularity of the sport itself, all had a hand in what we look at as the sport of boxing. Today, not so much. And I will say this about Floyd Mayweather. When you look at Floyd, my criticisms of Floyd are generally the last 10 years. Because on his way up, Floyd was an exciting fighter. He was a fighter that put people on their ass. He was a guy that would engage with you. He was a guy that showed immense talent. It wasn't until he decided to become Money Mayweather where his outlook on the game changed and his path to riches changed. Like I say, when I put my business hat on, I'm not going to criticize Floyd. But make no mistake, Floyd was a great fighter 10 years ago. I think this last 10 years of his career, the one that a lot of young fans seem to have, followed with him, has been all calculated. And again, from a business decision, you got to give him credit. But don't have the delusion, or don't misunderstand me about, discrediting Floyd, because Floyd Mayweather was an extremely talented fighter and still is. My hang-ups with Floyd was that he just never challenged himself. He never did things that great fighters do. Like, I thought that one of the things he should have done is fought Triple G. I thought that would have been an exclamation point on his career, whether he won or lost. And he failed to do that. Instead, he fights a pro debuter in Conor McGregor. Or he fights Andre Berto, or it says it all. Now, as far as Lomachenko, Lomachenko is a great fighter. I mean, I think he's great. I watched him. I was very pleased with his performance against another guy who I thought was extremely talented in Guillermo Rigondeaux. Is he number 1 pound for pound? I think it would be hard to argue that point right now. He had an extensive amateur career, a couple of gold medals. Who else is ahead of him? Are we going to put Errol Spence Jr. ahead of him? You could make that argument, but Errol Spence Jr., he's busted onto the scene, very careful career. Now he's busted onto the scene as a champion, showing us that he's loaded with skill. I just can't wait to see him more. I personally think right now, active pound for pound, you'd have to choose between the top 3 guys. To me, they're all on the same, they're all parallel with each other. Is Lomachenko, is Errol Spence Jr., and don't forget about Mikey Garcia. Mikey Garcia is a really good fighter. This guy is, not only is he good, but he's entertaining. How can you not like Mikey Garcia? Well, what's your thoughts on that, Sal?
Well, I was waiting for you to also throw in there possibly Triple G, but I think with Andre Ward retiring and being one of the top contenders for the all-round pound for pound active best out there, I think you name some top prospects that could have that title. I don't think anybody wants to face Errol Spence. I think he's got all the talent and ability that we haven't even seen yet. And I look forward to any one of his fights coming up. And I definitely think Lomachenko is on the rise. But in a young professional career, he's got so far to go to really. I mean, he's conquering the mountains one by one. But it is a young career. He's got under 15 fights, and I think he's got to be tested, and he will be tested. And I think he'll continue to hone in and sharpen his skill set, and I think he'll be more convincingly earning that title as pound for pound truest with each passing fight that he takes on and he defeats his opponent. I think he's definitely going to be thrown in that mix day in, day out.
And don't forget about TC, Terrence Crawford, another good
Terrence Crawford. See, we got you mentioned it. I mean, we got Terrence Crawford, we got Triple G, we got Errol Spence, we got Lomachenko. There are some great fighters right now out there that could vie for the pound for pound greatest right now in this active era of fighting.
No, it's true. Hey, listen, hold that thought. We're going to take a short break. When I come back, we got another return of an exciting fighter. And I will talk about that in about 2.
Billy C will be right back. Part of the Billy C Boxing Network.
Endless pools are an incredible alternative to traditional pools, making it easy and inexpensive to swim at home. Exercise year-round against a smooth current set to your desired pace and temperature. With our new underwater treadmill, you can walk or run without stressing your joints. Endless pools are simple to install and even simpler to maintain. The water stays crystal clear with almost no chlorine. Call for your free idea kit and experience the freedom of swimming at home.
Listen to this important message. If you owe money to the IRS, you will want to hear this. Penalties and interest compound daily on your back taxes, putting you under a mountain of debt. Tax 10,000 has years of experience connecting people with tax resolution specialists. Working through the IRS Fresh Start program, they will handle all the necessary forms, and if you qualify, you may end up saving thousands of dollars. Call Tax 10,000 at 800-773-4604.
Broken air conditioning, $4,400. Failing refrigerator, $2,500. Don't let outrageous repair and replacement bills like these bust your budget. Get the First American Home Warranty Plan. And when a covered appliance or system breaks, we'll repair it or replace it for you.
We had a high-end dishwasher go kaput. They put it in a brand new dishwasher.
We have plans that cover air conditioning, most appliances, plus heating, plumbing, electrical systems, and much more. Plans start as low as $25 a month. Why let a major appliance or system break down, bust your budget, or go through the hassle of finding trustworthy service people? Last year alone, we saved our customers over $120 million. Don't wait until something breaks and you're stuck with a huge bill.
You save a lot of money. It's absolutely worth it.
If you don't have First American Warranty, get it.
Call 1-800-946-6234 for your free no-obligation quote. Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white?
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts! Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning.
Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us. And don't forget, programming note, we will be doing a live show tomorrow. And we're scheduled to have a new author. Well, he's not a new author, but a new book out on Muhammad Ali. Jonathan Igg is the author of that book. And we're scheduled to have him join us and talk about the book a little bit tomorrow. And then we're off until next week. And next week we will give you our holiday schedule. Christmas is upon us. We will be doing some shows next week, but I am under the impression we will be doing shows Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. and then be off until after the first of the year, at least for live broadcast. Sal and I are working on some great stuff that you guys are going to love for 2018. But Sal, Lucas Matisse announced that he's going to be returning January 27th, 38-4 with 35 knockouts. This is a guy that is an extremely exciting fighter. He is going to be taking on Tiwa Kairam, who's an undefeated fighter from Thailand. He's 38-0 with 28 knockouts. The vacant WBA World Welterweight title will be on the line. It will be broadcast on HBO. You know, I had a chance to talk with Lucas Matisse. He was looking for management when he and I spoke. And his main concern was not his ability. His main concern was being able to get some money. It sounded like Lucas Matisse was looking for a big payday. How important is it for a guy like Lucas Matisse, who's a former world champion, who's been in there with some, big names, been in big fights, exciting fighter, etc.? Is it important to him to get a payday at this stage, or is it important to him to pick up another title?
Well, hopefully they're both synonymous with one or the other, and that would be the ideal situation. But right now, I think, you have to look at boxing as a business that you are actively pursuing, that you're going to have a few short years to make the most amount of money. And like I said, if you're going to have something in synonymous as a title fight with a big payday, yes, I think he should take the steps necessary, that he has to lay the groundwork to get back into the title contention and get that payday. And I think that he's got to really look at who is going to be his person that's going to be helping him on that pathway. But definitely, I think Lucas Matisse got to look at the business aspect, but he's got to also be passionate and get back into title contention and win that championship.
Our trivia question has been stumping a lot of people, and today I'm going to give you a really big hint, because I want to give away a copy of the Title Bout Championship computer game before we close this year out. And by the way, speaking of closing the year out, you guys are almost out of time. Please submit to us your top fights of 2017, whether it's your top 5 or your top 10, whatever you want. I need them in my hands before the end of this week, and I will read them live. So drop an email to me with your best 2017 fights of the year, Billy@TalkinBoxing, TalkinBoxing.com. And that's the same email address to send the answer to this question. And if you're the first one to do so, you will get your very own copy of the Title Bout Championship computer game. The question is a who am I question. I captured my first world title on my first try, but once I lost it, it took almost 12 years and 5 attempts before I would win another world title. Who am I? A big hint for you here is one of the titles was a world welterweight title. That's all I'm going to tell you. If you're the first one to email me, Billy@TalkinBoxing, TalkinBoxing.com, you win the prize. On this day, December 13th, in 2003, John Ruiz wins a 12-round decision over Hasim Rahman in their heavyweight fight that took place in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Ruiz was then subsequently awarded the WBA World Heavyweight title, becoming the first Puerto Rican to win the World Heavyweight title. On this day in 1983, Marvin Camel knocks out Roddy McDonald in the 5th round to win the newly created IBF World Cruiserweight title, and it took place in Nova Scotia. On this day in 2003, Corey Spinks wins a 12-round decision over Ricardo Mayorga to win the World and the WBC and the WBA World Welterweight titles. He also retained his IBF World title. The fight took place in Atlantic City, New Jersey, on this day in 2003. On this day in 1997, Hector Lizarraga knocks out Welcome Nikita in the 11th round to win the vacant IBF World Featherweight title, and that took place in one of my favorite places in Florida, Pompano Beach, on this day in 1997. On this day in 1980, Peter Mathabula wins a 15-round decision over Tai Sheik Kim to win the WBA World Flyweight title. It took place in Los Angeles, California, on this day in 1980. And on this day in 1997, Mauricio Pastrana knocks out Manuel Herrera in the third round to regain the IBF World Junior Flyweight title, and that took place on the same card as Hector Lizarga in Pompano Beach, Florida, on this day in 1997.
Wow.
Hey, man, that concludes our show for today. We had a lot of fun today. I want to thank Larry for joining us. We wish the best to Alex Berpali. He's been under the weather, and we are planning on presenting Henry Cooper as our blast from the past next week. Don't forget, tomorrow's show will feature the author of a new Muhammad Ali book. I know there's a lot out, but this one's unique. We'll talk about that on tomorrow's show. But hey, listen, all I'm going to say is this. Make sure you tune in tomorrow morning. Same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, I'll leave you with this. Ciao, baby.